Well, here we go, man. 26 minutes now before 12 o'clock. And of course, time for us to get our fact about tax. Faniswa, how are you? What's going on? Are you well?
I am well. I'm very well. Just a bit tired from last week. I missed you guys last week.
Yes. You had a family responsibility to take care of. Hopefully, everything went well on that side.
Everything went excellent.
We like to hear that. Tax.
It doesn't end.
It never ends.
Not even when you get to the end of the South African borders. No, it doesn't end.
It doesn't even end at the You have to give us a bit of background on international tax before we get into the details.
Okay, so picture a scenario where you work for an international airline, for example. I've actually got a friend who's in this position. Friend of mine, I grew up with her, went to the same primary school, high school. When we were at university, she got the opportunity to work for an international airline. And she left and she went to the United Arab Emirates.
Okay.
And that's where she resides now. Purely for work purposes, but she still considers South Africa home. So for tax purposes, she's still a South African resident. And therefore, she's still liable for South African taxes on all of her income, even the income that she earns
overseas
in Qatar. Yes.
Whew, okay. So, damn.
Yeah. A mouthful, right?
So if she banks her money, because I'm sure a lot of things are paid for by the company. It's one of the perks of working for an airline. There's a lot of, fringe benefits.
Yeah.
So you get to save the bulk of the money that you take home.
Yeah.
So you've been putting it in this, is it Qatarian or Qatari bank?
Yeah.
Qatari?
Let's say Qatari.
Okay. Or Bank of Qatar. And you put the money in there. But every, let's say, December, you're like, woohoo, taking 4 weeks, gonna go see the nephews, the nieces, mom, dad, wah. Also, let me get some of this money back home so that I can, help extend Ikaya, help do this. So when that money must get back here, legally.
Let me interject, because it's not even about the money getting here. It's about when you earn the money.
Oh, no!
It is about...
Here I am thinking I'm smooth about it. Like,
no.
Whoa, okay.
When you earn the money, you need to pay the tax.
This I need to hear.
Yeah. So for my friend specifically, fortunately, there are very favorable clauses in the Income Tax Act. So for a person who is in that position, for her, she would utilize the Section 10 exemptions. So what she would do is she would need to declare the income that, listen, this is the income that I've earned. Like you mentioned, she's banking most of it. Maybe she's got investments. Maybe she invested in property in South Africa and she's earning rental income. So she'd need to declare her rental income. She'd need to declare her foreign employment income as well, but that foreign income is subject to exemptions. The Section 1010 exemption limits to 1.25 million. So the first 1.25 million is tax exempt.
Any cent after that makes the entire thing taxable?
No, any cent after that becomes taxable.
Okay.
So if you've got 5 rand above that, only the 5 rand would be taxable.
Okay.
Yes.
Got you.
So if you are in that position, you're working abroad, you would then qualify for that exemption. So in effect, you'd only pay tax in the country that you're living and working in. In South Africa, 1.25 million would be exempt. But remember, anything above that is subject to tax.
This is why people never mind.
Speak your mind.
No.
You keep pulling back.
It's irresponsible. It's irresponsible to talk about why people smuggle cash across the borders. Very irresponsible. I wouldn't dare talk about that.
No. Not in my presence in any case.
Yes, you were saying. So anything above the 1.25 taxable.
Yep.
How does the taxman track what you are making overseas if you don't declare it? This is an honest question. Do they follow? Is there some kind of tool in place?
There isn't. That's a very, very good question, actually. There isn't a tool in place. Not unless there is some kind of inter-country agreement, which we'll get into shortly, where there is an inter-country agreement between South Africa and that specific country. They may have a clause in that agreement that says that they are open to sharing information about their persons.
So a person by this ID number who said they worked in your country, could you check against their ID number if they're on your tax system? If so, okay, got you.
Things like that, yes. So now another scenario is you, True, have got some money set aside and you go onto these investment platforms. One very popular one, I'm not sure if I can name names. It's
what, the crypto stuff or the
No, not even the crypto stuff. There's a platform that I came across it last year and it was actually very popular. A very, very easy way to do investments if you want to invest in any kind of stock. It's very easy.
And you can do it yourself.
And you can do it yourself. So that platform actually has categories where you can invest on. You can invest in South African stock, you can invest in BE shares, and you can invest in international stocks.
Okay.
So this is now you sitting in South Africa, you've got the spare cash, you do those investments, and you open up this US dollar account. And you earn interest, or you earn dividends on that US dollar account.
Okay.
That dividends is subject to South African tax. However, it is also exempt. So you'd need to make the declaration, but then Section 101K, I think it is, will then allow you, yes, Section 101K will allow you an exemption of that foreign dividend.
Is the threshold the same? Is it still that 1
It's
point?
fully exempt.
Oh.
Yes.
You just need to declare it, but it's fully exempt.
Yes.
Okay.
And then it's the same with interest as well. So if you've got an interest-bearing account, a foreign interest-bearing account, your foreign interest, you'd need to declare on your tax return, but then it's fully exempt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So that is the one leg.
Frequent mistakes? Or maybe should we wait for the second leg and then start speaking about the mistakes that people make?
Yeah,
when it comes,
let's leave the mistakes for the end.
For the end, yeah. Once we have all the information.
Yes.
Okay.
So now, imagine a scenario where you've got business income. Remember the
foreign business income.
Foreign business
like I'm doing
income.
business with Miss Phoenix, who is in Angola. And I'm doing business with Mswenko, who's in Nigeria. We're in the same industry, but I get raw materials from them. They get whatever the case.
Yes.
Right. So there's 3 African nations doing business here.
Yes. So now this business income would not qualify for that exemption that we spoke about earlier with regards to my friend who's working in Qatar.
Yes.
Because that is specifically only for employment income. So your business income, you would then need to declare on your South African tax return, and then you'd be liable for South African tax on that. However, there are different rules for each country.
Okay.
So you may be liable for Nigerian taxes on that same income.
And Angolan taxes.
And yes, on that same income. So now you're sitting with a scenario where you've got one source of income, but 2 tax authorities wanting to sort of tax you on the same income. Then we have something called an agreement, which is what I alluded to earlier, this double tax agreement. It's basically an agreement between South Africa and any other country, and they will then decide who gets the taxing rights.
Between the two, but only one will end up taxing you.
Yes,
okay.
That's correct, yeah.
How do they decide that?
It's meetings upon meetings that can take months, sometimes even years, and eventually a document is drawn up. But this specific document, it actually details per sort of income source. So you'll have business income, you'll have employment income, how it's treated, you'll have your interest income, you'll have your income from immovable properties. It's all detailed in that.
What about something like child support?
That is very interesting because
Cross border.
yes. Because in South Africa, child support is tax exempt. I'm not sure if you'll remember, we covered this in the much earlier. But if you pay child support to another country,
Swati or wherever, to another country, we need to look into that.
It'll be subject to the tax laws of that
that state.
Yes. But if you're
is that considered income?
It'll be subject to the tax laws of that state.
Crazy.
It could be anything.
No.
But for a South African recipient of maintenance, it's fully exempt.
Okay.
And I want to say that even if it's coming from abroad, it would be
It would
exempt.
still be because the end user
Yeah.
is not anybody except for the upkeep of
Yes.
okay.
But
Gotcha.
if you pay child support, the recipient on the other end, it'll depend on the tax laws of that country.
Sure. Okay. Interesting stuff. 15 minutes now before 12. We were still saying.
Yes, so you've got this agreement. It's called a double tax agreement
Yeah.
or a tax treaty. So basically, it overrides where there is an agreement in place, it will override the provisions of the Income Tax Act. Currently, South Africa has double tax agreements with 23 African countries and 50-something other countries outside of South Africa.
Okay.
So there isn't an agreement in place with all countries. So you have situations where there are no agreements in place, and you've got a situation where you've got one source of income and two taxes. But where there is a double tax agreement, you would literally look into the provisions of that agreement and then apply the taxing rights as agreed.
I have all these questions that pop up because we're talking international, and it gets, looking at what's happening currently. If, for instance, you wanted to financially support the war effort in the Ukraine, the money you send out, is that taxable, or would it be?
Again, Ukraine would be the recipient.
So they would. I'm getting it. I'm getting it.
However, if there was a war in South Africa and foreign investors wanted to finance or sort of bring money into
or
the
support
country,
the war effort,
it would depend then on what sort of structure they are donating to or supporting. If it's a registered public benefit organization, that would be a donation, which would be exempt from tax.
And if it's a militia...
You're very, very naughty today.
I had to ask. Because I'm just thinking, everybody is so touched by what's happening with the situation, to be serious. And everybody who is, sympathizing with one side is saying they want to see if there's anything they can do, any and everything. And I'm thinking, but we can say that. But how do you get any of this assistance there without, without jumping through hoops necessarily? And I think tax would definitely be one of them.
Definitely, yes.
Especially with all the damage to the infrastructure and things like that. They would definitely be needing to generate. Anyway, let's move along.
So that is the double tax agreement. It overrides, where it exists, it overrides the provisions of the Income Tax Act, and you look at specific line items in terms of, is this business income, and then according to this agreement between South Africa and this country, what are the taxing rights that have been agreed? So if there is no double tax agreement in place, you are then sitting in a situation where you've got one income source and two taxes, and then you need to pay the foreign tax.
Okay.
And then you file your tax return, and then you're liable to pay the South African tax as well.
Ouch.
Very ouch. But because the South African government loves us, they've actually got another section in the...
They do?
They do.
You have information. You have information.
They would not leave you in the lurch like that. There are provisions in place where you've actually made that foreign tax payment. You can look at Section 6 Quat, which details then what you do in the event of you've actually made a tax payment to a foreign country. You either get a rebate, which is basically you go through the whole tax calculation, you declare your income, you claim your deductions, and you get to a taxable amount. You apply that amount to the tax tables on whatever percentage you land on, and then you get your tax liability. And then you say,
Okay.
but wait, I've paid taxes in the UK, and then your South African tax liability, which is now the amount you arrive at, you say minus the tax I've already paid in the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Converted into
Converted into
Right.
South African rands.
right,
Yes.
right. Well, that is kind of fair.
It is very fair. You see, they love us.
Oh, they think about us sometimes when it's raining.
When it's raining. There are some very specific qualification criteria
Yeah.
in order to be able to get that rebate. And if you don't qualify for that rebate, you then unfortunately cannot make that deduction. However, what you can is you can claim it as a normal deduction at the top of your calculation before you actually get to your tax liability. So it's twofold. It's either a rebate against the actual tax liability or a deduction like your retirement annuity or your medical aid expenses, etc.
Where do people get it wrong most commonly with international tax?
With international tax, you need a specialist.
So this isn't a thumb suck exercise. It's not something where you're like,
No.
I didn't go to the school I went to, so that I can't read a piece of paper about tax. It's not that kind of party.
No, you would need a specialist because there are very intricate rules. For example, the one between whether you claim a rebate or a deduction, you'd need to know those specific rules. You would need to know if your country has a double tax agreement between South Africa and the country that you're earning an income from. So I would highly recommend. I mean, the information is freely available on the SARS website.
Sure.
You can, if you trust yourself, go in, do the reading, but I would not recommend it. This is a very specialist area.
And the laws outside of our own country, we
Yeah.
don't have control over.
Yes.
That legislation can change at any given time. We're not necessarily following legislation of each and every country out
We're
there.
not. It's very different
And-
from country to
And the
country.
fact that I might have been doing business with you for the last 2 years doesn't mean that when the laws change in your country, that business as usual from our side.
And that's the other thing that makes it so sensitive is because tax laws, they do change. I actually worked at a company where I was responsible for several African countries, and one of which was Nigeria.
Their tax laws change all the
They
time. Don't they
change.
change with every regime? Like with every presidential change, there's like a big change in the constitution and
I understand that. Listen, True, I was at this company for a year. I don't know how many changes in legislation that I handled in that year.
really.
Yes.
So it's a cycle, that thing. It's a full-time job.
But to the benefit of the Nigerian government, however, I was working at this company at the height of COVID, just when it began. And the laws that were changing at the time were actually for the benefit of their tax residents, to allow them the opportunity to sort of claim COVID-related benefits because of business closures and job losses.
Right.
And such things. But you need to be on top of these things. Yeah.
Tax. The surefire thing,
Yes.
besides death, that you can be sure of.
And if you thought that was specialist, there is an even higher specialist field of tax called transfer pricing. It's so specialized that I can't even really talk about it. I can give you a very, very high level sort of understanding of what transfer pricing is.
Are we ready to even know such things? Is this not going to put us on some radar of some government intelligence community that's going to be like, they just said the words. They just said the key words.
They said.
Did anyone else hear that?
She repeated it.
Yeah, so what's transfer pricing?
Transfer pricing, very simply, is imagine we are running a car manufacturer. The one department in the manufacturing plant manufactures the software that goes into the vehicle, and the other one manufactures the actual hard part of the vehicle. So the department that manufactures the software sells the software to the car manufacturer, and then everything is put together and you get an end product, which is a car. Now imagine the software company or the software department sells the software to its sister company as well as to other companies that it's not related to. And there's obviously a specific price that it sells it at. But to the sister company, you can imagine there'd be
a better agreement in place.
Better agreement, yes. Now imagine all of this is happening across borders. Yes.
Damn. Okay.
Yes.
Like on the West Bank here with that manufacturer that's there.
Yes. So say the software company is in one tax jurisdiction and then the car manufacturer is in another tax jurisdiction. The company, which is one company but with two subsidiaries, can manipulate the price depending on which of the two departments is sitting in the better or in the lower tax bracket. Yes. So
wow.
the price can be manipulated to sort of sell at a lower price and declare higher profits in the tax jurisdiction with the higher tax rates, and then declare lesser profits in, or rather the other way around.
Yes.
I'm getting confused.
Told you. That transfer pricing will get you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's basically a manipulation of the profits.
But that's a specialist speciality.
Very, very specialist. It's a manipulation of the price that you sell between connected parties in order to manipulate the profits, in order to make use of the favorable tax position.
So that's the stock market of tax.
Yes. Wall Street kind of stuff.
Got it. Listen, 4 minutes before 12. Any of this needs clarity for somebody? How do they get in touch with you?
They can contact me on info@thetaxcafe.co.za or telephonically on 061-874-2546. I am the Tax Cafe on all social media.
Nice one. Thank you so much once again.
Yes.
International tax, for those of you whose passports have just been refreshed, get that dirt off your shoulder. But don't forget, if you're doing some business or you're making some income, you better know your story. The Tax Cafe here to help us know all of that. 3 minutes before 12 now. We do have to get out of here. You could have been anywhere between 9 and 12, but this is where you chose to be. For that, we're eternally grateful. Thank you for making Moment of Truth your 9 to 12 destination. Until tomorrow. Well, unless it's you, then it's until next week.
Until next week.
Take care of yourselves so we can take care of each other.